Oh boy, welcome back to Analyzing the Magnus Protocol. Today I'm covering Mag Protocol episode 41, Internal Investigations. Funny pun, John Sims Alexander, you bastards. I see what you guys did there. Regardless, this episode just came out. And, you know, I support the Patreon, so I get it early. But this is gonna be in time for when everyone else's gets it into public on the 3rd, so shaboink, gotcha. If you have any of your own theories or comments, like, subscribe. I'm gonna be doing this weekly. Please God, my ADHD can handle that. So, without further ado, I guess let's just jump right into it. So we get the classic OAR computer boot up, with Gwen and Celia beginning to, with Gwen beginning to talk to Celia, and Celia just ticked off ever so much, being like, I know the caseload is behind, we're down 4 people, can you just, like, give it a break, just a little bit? And, she was down, she says they were down 4 people, which initially confused me, and then, I like, started to think, because I was like, alright, Colin, Sam, and then Gwen's off in Berlin, he's like 4, and, Lena, which will come back later, and then Gwen is just, that wasn't why I was here to talk. I actually wanted to ask if Alice has talked to you at all since she arrived in Berlin. And that's what Celia says, like, no, I haven't heard anything since she got to Berlin. And then Gwen, kind of leading her on, is like, really? No texts, emails, anything, blah, 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 blah. And then we actually get some humanity in Gwen, actually caring for Alice a little bit, with Gwen being like, you sure you didn't get anything? And like, when did you last, check any messages that you might have got? And Celia's just like, it's okay to, like, show genuine emotion and care for someone else. And then Gwen, in typical Gwen fashion, Gwen just saying, oh well, if she did contact anyone, it wouldn't be through me. And Celia's like, yeah, you sure? And Gwen is just like, oh, you know how little Alice thinks of me. Basically saying, ever since she took Lena's job, what's the word she used? Their rapport isn't, as strong as it used to be. And then Gwen basically leaves Celia saying, I will let you know if she contacts me, but she hasn't. So Gwen just leaves. Celia begins to just type on the computer, and Celia just gets frustrated, slams her hand on the table. So then we get Chester talking basically about an autopsy report with criminal pathologist, date of 2nd of February 1970, the event dated on June 17th, 1995, a confidential report of a coroner, so around 9:30 a.m. on June 9th of 1995, at the request of Greater Manchester Police, this man, Dr. Chloe Gemmell, attended the scene of a suspicious death near Didsbury, Lancashire. Basically, what happened was a neighbor reported sounds of confrontation and chemical smells around 2 a.m. And then later seeing a body through a back window around 4. Paramedics attended and declared life extinct at 4:35, and then police arrested a suspect at the scene. Upon entering, Dr. Gemmell saw that the kitchen was filled with chemistry apparatus and broken glass on the floor, oversized container with bloodstains, and various residues just everywhere. Extensive diagrams and what looked like MLM scale guides for Macroni Alchemics, some sort of brand or place, institution, something like that, I would guess. The body of said person was in a doorway of a utility room, half covered in laundry. The fact of death of having consulted the senior investigator, DI Betty Osborne, the body was maybe dead around 10 a.m. The body was of a middle-aged Caucasian woman, and she laid on her right side in the fetal position with her head toward the back door, left arm extended towards the door in a slight flex. The right arm was pressed against the body, with the right elbow flexed to the right hand, clutching the face. And the legs were extended behind with minimal rotation. She was wearing floral knee-length dress, bifocal glasses, and an apron tied around with Marconi alchemics embroidered, and the body was essentially examined. There was blood staining on the right collar, dirt, blood, various nails, and other places. Her body was covered in sodium chloride, which I believe is salt. The body was covered in clean laundry, albeit for blood stains. She was also propped up against a washing machine, and there were essentially marks on her neck which suggested strangulation. Basically just more signs that there was some sort of struggle with this dead body. Marks on the face, the hands, etc. But what gets interesting is when we look at an investigation internally. Johnny Sims, Alexander, you hacks. With the scalp, on the skull there was a foul yellow residue that was sent to toxology and was likely sulfur based. No clear sign of what caused that though. On the skull, what is the dura? Oh, the dura is like some shit in the, not the brain, but the skull, apparently. The dura was stripped with no sign of fracture. And when we look at the brain, there is no brain. Rather, it is replaced with a solid silver facsimile, essentially like something replicating silver or silver adjacent, and it was removed, but there was no sign of surgery that like would have put that in there. It was sent to toxicology. The face, the soft tissue was dissected to the bone. So I take that as there was like no muscle, no tendons, or anything like that. It was just skin and bone, is what I kind of read that as. The tongue was bitten, and a metallic discoloration in the mouth lining that was sent to toxicology. Again, the neck, finger pattern, like finger imprint, essentially. Bro was strangled. What is the pleura? Okay, so the pleura is like something coating around the lungs, chest, something like that. Pleura was stripped, and there was a metallic discoloration. Samples were sent to toxology, and the ribs were flayed. No evidence of any fracture. There's deformation like on the lungs and the pleural cavity, in the surrounding tissue. The lungs, exposed to the pleural sac, filled with a dense metal deposit. Autopsy was paused. It was some sort of biohazard. Basically, this like membrane of large liquid metal, assumably mercury, is what is said. Also, there are just no lungs. They're gone. We don't need those. Oh boy, when we get to the heart, there is no heart. Instead, it's this solid like piece of gold that is like connected to like the blood things that the heart does. I forget what those are called. I don't remember anything from school. And again, no signs of any surgery that would have gotten that in there. The liver was replaced by a silvery metallic facsimile, something not a liver. Initial indications that it is tin. Ooh. Kidneys entirely replaced by copper facsimiles, and the bladder undamaged. Nothing in the bladder. Womb, cervix, fallopian tubes, and ovaries fully removed, with scarring that is consistent with a hysterectomy, but nothing else to note. The spleen was very dense and soft, with a facsimile of assumably like lead. It was very heavy, and there were deformation of like the surrounding area that again suggested this heavy metal was just, weighing this piece down, which also explains the abnormal weight. The gallbladder was replaced by metallic facsimile, assumably iron, and basically all being said that with the time of death, assumably being around the 2 a.m. on the 9th of June of 1995, it's all like very weird, and it indicates that, death by strangulation. But with all this metal fake organs that were put inside, it assumed that would have been the cause of death before the strangulation. So damage to the throat accompanied by indications of hypoxia, consistent with strangulation, and is a front for foul play. But again, as stated with the metal things, that would have killed them before the strangulation of prior of death. Very interesting. And Dr. Gemmel was under the assumption that there was a person arrested, but it was already assumed that that was a clerical error, as the person arrested was the same person as the dead body. But with his personal comments, I don't know what I just witnessed. If any similar cases arise, do not contact me. And that's the case ending. We cut back, though, to the OIAR with Gwen at her desk. Oh boy. So basically, Gwen is sitting at her desk, bored the hell out of her mind, puts down her curtains as she enters, pours herself a drink, sits down, and just sits. Then there's a ping on the computer, and she's like, Freddy? There's like another little thing that pops up, and she says, do you want me to call this number? So if Freddy just gave her a phone number, who we learn is Lena's. So Gwen calls the number, and Lena says hi. Oh, hello, Lena. Haven't seen you in a while. And Gwen is like, Lena? And she's like, of course it's me. You called my home cell. Gwen is just, how are you? And Lena's like, I'm fine. Why the fuck are you calling me late at night? Gwen just saying that she found a number. So yeah, then Lena asks, how is it going, Gwen? Is it everything you hoped for? And Gwen just responds, it's going fine. We hear Freddy beep. Lying. Truth-telling son of a bitch. And Lena continues saying, well, you're doing better than I started off with. Once I got everything in order. And Gwen is just, well, it's better now. And bzz, goes Freddy again. And then we get nice little note that Lena is just, keep everyone safe, and if you do that, you're doing fine. And Gwen begins to be, they have a funny little thing where Gwen doesn't know the age of Lena and says she's old and she's retiring. Lena's just, how the fuck old do you think I am? No, wait, don't answer that. But then Gwen is like, while I have you here, do you want to tell me about... And then Lena cuts her off, saying, why do you think I sent everything with letters? Don't tell me over the phone. And then, moment pauses, Lena's like, I'll send you a postcard, and meet me there, ask me whatever you want. Basically saying, and just to be absolutely clear, I would have happily left you in the bed you made for yourself if I thought it wouldn't affect the others. Which was really nice. Lena actually cares about the others. Joke's on her, she's about to find out. Sam is gone, Colin's likely, yes, dead, and Alice is with an external. And then Lena telling Gwen to, hey, the bottle in the desk, bring that to me. It's a thing I owed a friend. And then she's like, you fucking drank it, did you? And Gwen is like, not all of it. And then Lena hangs up. And then, we cut to Alice's phone in Heinrich und Heimlich's workshop. And oh boy, do we get this tall motherfucker again. So I like the description of this in the transcript. Alice is sat in the good chair. It's fine. They are in a dark part of the warehouse. It is still dank and mostly empty, but with less homicidal puppets. And then we get Heinrich being like, you comfy? Is the chair good? And Alice is just, oh yeah, 4 legs, it's good. Yeah. And Heinrich's just, I'm glad. Like, oh god, I love this man. And Alice is like, all right, so you want to catch me up on what Colin was talking to you about? And Heinrich is basically, to cut to this chase, basically. Colin contacted him a few months ago, wanting to ask about, Frederick, a programmer, and sort of origins in, marked, he had marked Heinrich as the only safe thing in the files. And this is interesting. So, as Heinrich is basically telling that Colin was contacting him about Frederick, programmer, origins, were here in Berlin, and that the files marked Heinrich as safe, and, as the only safe... Einsteiger? In Berlin, which translated to English means anxiety hunter, which I guess fear... external, that sort of thing. So basically, like, a safe external in Berlin. And Heinrich gets kind of insulted by that. He's like, and that was very insulting. And he gets very just big and just like almost threatening. It's like, that was very insulting and very untrue. I'm not safe, yeah? And I was just like, yeah, no, not safe. Yeah, agree. And then Heinrich just asks, is like, you afraid of me? And Alice is like, well, yes, very, of course. And then Heinrich is just like, ah, good. Colin was pleasant and I liked him. So, you know, he agreed to help him find this, Frederick. And Alice is just like, okay, did you find him? And he basically says, well, yes, but actually no. And there's a pause, and Alice is just like, okay, Heinrich, he's like, I'm really scared right now. And Alice goes on a little bit of a tangent saying, but I've had a long flight and a rough few weeks, and it's bad enough reading all of Colin's ramblings without doing the cryptic double speak thing on top of it. So can we just, like, not for now? And Heinrich basically being like, fine. It's, you know, he says, like, yeah, fine, I'll do that. But it says that it's been some time since he's played the part, so to speak. Again, he hasn't really sought fear into anyone in a long time, so that makes sense. And Alice just like, cool, thank you. And, you know, Heinrich essentially says that he went on the internet. He did a little internet surfing and basically find that Frederick wasn't a person at all. Rather, he is just like an update, a version of whatever Freddy program it is. And he's just like, yeah, program number 8. Weird. Alice then is like, well, Colin had all these notes about a German programmer, so she had assumed that, you know, that was a real person. And Heinrich is, you know, says like, there was a man who built, you know, Frederick, but all he found were the initials KS. Boy, if that ain't Klaus, I'm gonna beat some shit into someone. And oh god. So Heinrich says, yes, but there was such a man who built your Freddy. The few references we found had the initials KS. So you see, not Frederick. Alice, Christ on a bike. Heinrich, it's funny, yes? And Alice, no, it's not. And then Alice being like, all right, well, thank you, Heinrich. I'm gonna leave now. And Heinrich was like, well, I also found an address. And Alice is like, an address for what? And Heinrich was like, I don't know. He said it was impolite to visit without Colin. He was planning to go there with Colin, but now that you're here, how about you and me go together? And Alice was like, you could just give me the address and I could go by myself. And Heinrich's like, no, I'm going with you. Alice, listen, Heinrich, you really don't need to come with me. I'm sure you'd rather stay here in your toy abattoir. Heinrich, nonsense. We are friends now. I will visit with you. No, Alice. No, really, Heinrich. I insist. Okay then. Heinrich, wunderbar. I will bring the chair. Alice, thanks. Heinrich, natürlich. Now, let us paint the town red. And Alice is just, sure, okay then. Heinrich laughs and the episode ends. Holy bejesus, Batman. Really good episode. I'm really excited to see. So next episode is where we're gonna get into, I assumably, Archives Alice and what happened with her back in the Archives universe, Sam, Georgie, all that sort of stuff. But that's next week. So damn me, I guess. Again, this shows up themes again of transmutation, you know, big thing in alchemy. Changing something into another, the law of each equivalent exchange. Fucking Elric, bastard. I bet they have to know what they were doing. They have to. They have Elric, the Elric LLC Corporation. Like, come on, they knew what they were doing. But regardless, again, similar themes, transmutation, with, again, these elements within the body, which also makes sense. The sulfur, where's my notes? I'll just throw it up there, because my brain is so shot, I don't remember what that is. But these things showed up on the body, so correlation there. Again, just more alchemy shit, which I'm super hyped for. But I guess since every chunks was like 10 episodes, I guess in 4 episodes we'll be already halfway through season 2, which is insane. Because I don't want it to be over yet, and then we only have 1 more season after that, which sucks, but damn am I excited to see where this story continues. If any of you have any thoughts, comments below, please like, subscribe. I will see you when we're covering episode 42, alright? See ya!